the music room system, where you had to turn it on and off in a certain order, this one has a power sequencer built in. Power sequencer is going to automatically turn stuff on and off in the right order for you. So if you hit this rocker switch on, it'll turn everything on in the right order. I'm just going to let it go through that cycle. The amps will come on last.
What did you just hit? Power?
The power, there's a power sequencer start. It actually says power on off. This is the only power switch you need to worry about on this rack, the one with the label above it right here. If I drop that down to off, it's going to turn the amps off first, and then turn everything else off. I just want to point out that on our user interface right here, when the power is off, all it's going to say is system power off. It's going to indicate that the system's off. You can't do anything. When I turn it on, after it finishes booting up, you'll see your main menu come up on there. So now we have a menu that operates click wheel style like an old iPod. There are 4 options on this main menu. Input mixer and output mixer, that's where you're going to go to get to your various volume controls. And then combined system and aux main separate. Those are just triggers. That'll just pick how you want to use the system. If I scroll to combined system and hit select, you'll see it puts a little arrow next to it to show that I selected it. Now the system is acting as one big sound system. All of the inputs are going to route to both gyms. If I go and select aux main separate, and it'll tell me selected when I hit the center button, now it's going to act like 2 separated sound systems. So the mic jacks in the aux gym and wireless B will only route to the aux gym. Your music sources, wireless A, and the mic jacks in the main gym will all route to the main gym. I'm going to repeat that, and it's also listed on here. In separate, all of your music sources, wireless A, and all of the physical inputs in the main gym will route to the main gym. The only things that will route to the aux gym when you're separated are the 2 physical mic inputs that are in the aux gym and wireless B. You'll notice I put on the wireless receivers and the mics themselves, it says wireless B aux. When you're combined, both wireless mics will go to both gyms. But when you are separate, A goes to the main gym, B goes to the aux gym. Okay? So that's how you choose how you want to use the system. I'm going to use it in combined mode for the trading, just so we can walk around and see how everything's working. And then you have your 2 mixer options. Input mixer and output mixer. Output mixer, all that does is going to adjust the relative volume between the various speaker zones. So you have a master volume for the main gym, a master volume for the aux gym, a master volume for what's going out to the recorder. There's the same CD recorder that was in the music room is in here. And then you can actually adjust the relative volume between the speakers over the home bleachers, the speaker over the floor, the speaker over the visitor bleachers, and the sub signal. You rarely want to do anything with this. These are set pretty well. They really shouldn't need to be adjusted, but they're there. If you decide that you want to change the level of the relative volume versus home versus away, or the mains versus the sub, you can do so on that page. But for general use, you really shouldn't be playing on that page. From either of the volume control pages, you can go back to home, and then you notice it always the selector stays wherever it was on the last page. It doesn't go back to the beginning, so you might have to, when you go back to the pages, you might have to scroll up rather than down. So just scroll both ways to look for what you're looking for. Input mixer is where you're going to spend most of your time making adjustments. So you see on input mixer, we have wireless A, wireless B. We have 8 physical mic level jacks in the room. 6 of them are in the main gym. 4 of them I still need to install because they're running the cable for them now. But the ones in the floor boxes are, and I'll show you those ones. I'll show you where the other ones are going to be. You have a mixer input. In the floor box, there's also a left-right sub jack, which if you had if you want to put a sub mixer in the room, like a actual like mixing board to run like a bigger event, you would plug. You have a left or right and a dedicated line that goes straight to the subwoofer. You would plug those into your mixer as you wanted to use them. Tuner, which is the AM/FM tuner right here. CD player. So I'm going to turn that down. We don't need that on. CD player is this Tascam CD player here, which does have an aux-in built in and also has Bluetooth built in. The instructions for pairing to a Bluetooth, cycling through the inputs on that are listed in here, but we can review that. iFace is this guy right here. This is like a direct box for consumer input. So if this is sitting in the rack plugged into these cables, then this iFace controller will control the volume of that. I put in this pamphlet, you can, if you want to plug a music device directly in the gym, and you're not putting a mixer board in there, you're not putting like a secondary mixer in there, you can unplug this from this rack, plug it directly into the left and right, where I told you there's a place where you can plug in a mixer there, and inject music straight into the system. But this iFace volume control only controls it when it's in this rack. If you plug it into the mixer input in the gym, then you're going to need to use mixer input to control the volume. Make sense? All right. And then that's it. That's it for your inputs. The CD recorder in this rack is not hooked up for playback. It's only hooked up for recording. There's not enough inputs to hook this in. All the inputs in the system are being used before we get the CD recorder involved. So the CD recorder is only hooked up for recording. If you want to play back something you've recorded, you're going to need to finalize the disc and pop it into the other CD player up here. This CD player will not play back. It will just record. Any questions about that? All right.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe you covered, but if we wanted to choose our own music, let's say one of the kids wanted to bring a CD to play doing warm-up for pregame, how would that work?
That would go into that just there. You could plug in to this guy and use the iFace, or you can plug into. So on the CD player, see how we have Shift and Source Select listed right there? If I hold down Shift and press Source Select, I rotate between CD, Bluetooth. So if I plug that in there, then when I cycle through here, I'm going to have aux as an option too. That aux will only show up if you have something plugged in there.
So you said here or here.
Yeah. So if I plug it in here, CD player controls the volume on there. If I plug it in there, iFace controls the volume. So the volume control you use depends on what you plug into. So real quick. So if you're in combined, it will go everywhere. If you are in separate, the music sources will only go to the main gem. Yes. So let me go. So right now the way it works is you have two presets. One is combined, where everything goes to both gems. The other is separate. In separate, the main gem acts as a separate sound system from the aux gem, meaning stuff will only play in one or the other. Now, right now, the way it's programmed, in separate mode, all of the music sources route to the main gem. However, if you want to pick one of your music sources and have that music source route to the aux gem in separate mode, I can make that programming change for you. Yeah. So, we have a wireless A and a wireless B. We have a wireless B lavalier and a wireless B handheld. Only one of these will work at a time. So these both need to use the same connection to the rack to operate. So if I try to turn on both wireless Bs at the same time, they will interfere with each other and they will not work. So I'm just going to take the wireless B handheld for now, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll up, check, 1, 2, wireless B. You see I've got a little more room to turn that up. I can turn it down. And you probably want to operate these between 80 and 90. You've got a little bit of room to play above that. You can take it down if you have someone who's got a really, really projecting voice, but typically between 80 and 90 is a good place to use these. So we come out here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the new
I can't wait for this to be over.
Richmond Heights Upper School Gymnasium. When you're doing presentations, the lavalier is great for someone who needs to have their hands free. But like I said, the lavalier is going to be slightly more sensitive to feedback if you turn it up all the way and like try to walk directly to the front of a speaker. I did tune this room pretty good, so you shouldn't have a huge issue with the lavaliers in this room. Notice if you rub the windscreen, it does make a little scratchy noise, so you want to make sure you wear it somewhere where it's not going to rub on clothing a lot. And in my own ears, I don't hear as much of myself through the speakers as I would if I was holding the microphone. That just has a lot to do with the way the lavalier picks up. It doesn't actually pick up my voice in the same ways that a handheld mic picks up my voice. So when you're using a lavalier, you might think you need more. You might not hear yourself and think that whoever's running the sound system should turn you up more, but in reality, you actually sound fine to the audience. So keep that in mind. If you're tuning your own lavalier, if you're setting the level on your own lavalier, you might not need to turn it up as much as you think you do to make sure you have a good level. It's better to have someone sit in the room and tell you when you're at a good level, when you're setting the level on the lavalier. Any questions?
How many inputs for mics?
I'll walk around and show you guys where all those are now. There's labels on these. We have mic 7 and mic 8. So you can take a microphone on a cable, plug it into one of these jacks in the floor box, and then mic 7 or mic 8. And those two mic inputs will route to the aux gym in separate mode or to both gyms in combined mode. So there are only two inputs in this aux gym, and they are in that floor box. If we go over to the main gym, a little audio snake that pulls out of here, and we've got, these are labeled. So we've got mic 1 and mic 2 are labeled mic 1 and 2. So these are mic inputs to plug a microphone directly into. Then we have our mixer inputs, which is line right, line left, and sub. So these you would, if you had a mixer board in here, you'd plug the mixer board directly into these inputs, and it would basically give you like a sub mixer to run your own mix from this position in the room. You can just use, if you don't have a mixer with a dedicated sub output, you can just use left and right. I have the left and right also routed to the sub just slightly lower than the sub input is. So you will get some bass if you're just using left and right. But if you have a mixer with a dedicated sub input, or output rather, you would hook up all three of these to your mixer. These don't have to reach the mixer. You can use regular mic cables to extend, to plug in. This is just there was going to be like wall plates in here, but they were bigger than the floor box, so we had to do a little snake instead. These would, you plug a microphone directly into these two and it will work. These ones are for a line level source. So if you want to use the I-face in this room, you need to take your line left and your line right and plug those directly into the I-face. And then you can plug your music source directly into the I-face at this floor box. And then we're going to take the I-face, which is this guy here, and we're going to unplug it from where it's plugged in the right. Perfect. We're just going to leave those cables here so we can put it back when we're done. And we're going to take this, and for the I-face, we're going to look for these cables that are labeled left and right, and plug them into the I-face where it says left and right. So right goes there, left goes there.
You just won't have the sub.
Yeah. So you are going to get, I do have this routed slightly to the sub. If you wanted more bass, you could, and I don't know if I'm getting a little complicated here, you could switch this to mono, unplug either your left or your right, and plug the sub into the one you're not using. And what that should do would be to route you to right and sub, but because you're coming into this mono, you shouldn't lose any audio. But I do have bass routed even if you do it the first way I laid out. So I'm going to leave it on stereo and just plug into left and right. And so the way this floor box works, there is a little flap that if you want to, there should be a way to, it's not like that one. All right, so there's a little flap if you wanted to just have what you need pop out. And obviously you're probably going to have like a table over this, so you'd have that there under your table. You'd plug in your cord for your phone. Something out there. There will be a plate there with 2 additional mic inputs. I think that's either going to be 3 and 4 or 5 and 6. I can't remember. I'll have to check the print. But there's also going to be another box behind those bleachers there. So if you needed to plug in 6 mics in this room, you could plug in 2 here, 2 there, crawl behind the bleachers, plug 2 more in behind those bleachers.
So crawl behind the bleachers,
Yeah.
plug in the mics.
And then you just throw the cord out through the front.